we are live. Good morning, everyone. Tonia Reeves, Australias Cowgirl Medium, here with the best psychologist / mental health expert, Tony Kiss, who is at the amazing Human Repair Shop that I got to visit last week. And that is such a cool spot, Tony. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that, Ton. It was so good to have you over. It was really good. It's sort of like, you just showcasing what you've got. And let me just got Spotify come through.
Oh, I like the music.
Yeah, music wasn't too bad. I was in the background in the clinic. No, it was great to have you, and also, hey, how are you, Shell? It's good to see you on board. Natasha's on board as well. Yeah, no, it was good to have yourself and your daughter in, and Honor as well, her partner, who's absolutely a superstar. Great couple, those two. Very, very cool to hang out with those guys. Honor's on board as well. Mel's on board as well. But yeah, you got to come in, and it's so nice to have a mate come along and check out a clinic that we've been trying to build, and it was like 90%. And you've been in the trade for a long time, and you know what it looks like. So it was so nice to have all three of you here, and give us your blessings. I suppose that was really nice.
It's awesome. I love what you've created there. Is an absolute, like, if I was located in Sydney, I'd be hanging out there. Like, it's just such a cool space. And not only are you helping people with their health, but they get to hang out somewhere cool. It's a bit of fun. It's got a bit of spirit to it. And, it really does encompass like body, mind and spirit. That's amazing.
And you had a beautiful surprise for your daughter, Shelby, coming up to Sydney with the girls. I'm going to say the show itself, you were absolutely fantastic. Geordie James is on board as well. Mel's on as well. Hey, guys, if you didn't know, Tonia was up at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, and it was absolutely beautiful. And my partner, Orla, and her friend Hannah came along to see Tonia for the first time. And Tonia, I've got to say, watching you do a mediumship show, Hannah is just the biggest fan, like wanting to get into tarot cards and everything. She goes, "You're like her idol now. You're like her Madonna." So
He's beautiful. I loved Hannah. So much talent there. I love, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, encouraging others to step into, their roles as readers or, mediums or whatever that, they feel drawn to, because it can be a very solitary kind of journey. And I think the more that we get support in this, the better that we can step into it and transition to that really easy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's all about. We've spoken about this before. Gilly, hi, how are you? Great to see you on board. For a lot of us out here that are practitioners, whether it's in the spiritual realm or if it's in the physical realm, whatever we're dealing with at the moment, whether it's tarot, whether it's psychology, whether it's physical therapies, that starting point is always so nerve-wracking. It's like, where do I start? Who do I talk to? Will I be any good? Am I following the right path? A million of things go through your mind. And it was so nice to see Hannah and also Shelby as well, because Shelby's talking about doing tarot as well, which was quite nice to hear, your daughter. And it is that when you have somebody like yourself, Tonia, go, yep, you know what, Hannah, you do really well at this. You just got to stick at it. And you actually gave her an opportunity to perform. And later on here in Sydney, we'll actually have Tonia come up to the clinic and we'll do a workshop up here and do a mediumship show. And she said to Hannah, she goes, you know what? Get in there and start. You're going to start doing readings at one of our shows. And she's already been doing it. Now, you know what I loved about that, Tonia, was her face just went white. White was excited and you were at the same time.
Look, there's nothing like jumping in, and if I could say one thing to anyone that's kind of contemplating or has been, I suppose just sitting on the fence, you really do have to jump in. And if you've got somebody that can take your hand and help you, by all means do that. But it's like it really is a great journey, especially if you've got somebody to support you.
Yeah, and that was beautiful from that. Hey, look, I'd be really interested. Today's topic could be something like your first time. Tell us what it was like.
And we're not talking sex here, Tony, which is like
no, we're going totally PC. We're talking about your first time as a therapist, any form. It doesn't matter. even a hairdresser, you know, your first haircut, like, oh, here you go, Tash's got a good, yeah, like your first, like even your first haircut. What was do you remember doing your first haircut, like picking up a pair of scissors and then having to physically cut somebody's hair and they're sort of expecting an outcome? How did you go with that one, Ton?
I stuck to the rule of don't go too crazy to start with, because I had seen that, you know, throughout being an apprentice. I'd seen people that had cut too much off somebody's hair, and you can't kind of go, hang on a minute, I'll just stick that all back on. So I think my first haircut was very much doing about 6 haircuts for one haircut, because I was very much like, I can take a little bit more.
Yeah.
So thankfully it wasn't me that went, you know, crazy and cut all the hair off and then had to try and, you know, talk someone into a really short haircut they might not have wanted. But I had seen that a few times.
Yeah, that would have been so nerve-wracking for you, and I think for your client as well. That would have been like, oh, geez.
Absolutely. Well, most of the time, you know, to start with, you've got the freebie people, and they're great because they're happy to put their hand up. They don't really particularly care what they look like. Yeah. So they're the ultimate to practice on. So thank God for those people is all I can say.
Yeah, James says scissor happy, really cool. Natasha, I'm going to get onto your question in a minute. Absolutely. I'll definitely have a look at that one. Yeah, look, I remember even, you know, as a massage therapist when I first started, and in massage, you had to follow a sequence from a book, right? And that's what you did. So we went through the sequence a million times. And then, so when you get your first paid client, your focus is just like yourself. Like, I was so nervous. I was like, I hope I get the sequence right. I hope I remember everything. And you know, the problem was, Tonia, it was all about me. I hope I get this right. I hope I do this. And it was never about the client. And I'm like, boom. Like that was like, Tony, what's wrong with you? But you're so nervous because you want to do it well for your client. And then I remember being nervous, and it was just getting through it and doing the whole lot. And then accepting the money, Tonia. Oh my God, I felt guilty as. I thought, man, these people got a better massage from somebody else. Like, I don't think I followed all the sequence and all that. And it was lucky I spoke to one of my teachers, and I told her exactly what I was going through. She was a beautiful soul. And she said, she goes, Tony, she goes, nobody's got your book of what sequence you're doing. Okay. They got no idea what the script is. And I went, oh, I didn't know that. It was still nerve. The next 50 was still nerve-wracking, I've got to be honest with you. But yeah, Gilly's saying I can relate to all this. Shared experiences, absolutely. Rachel goes, I always put my hand up for a freebie haircut, mostly because they get training and they don't care if I end up with a buzz cut again.
I love it.
I think you've got the right idea. Yeah, look, we've got them here in Sydney too, Rach. And I'll tell you what, the ones that I get worried about, there's a dental hospital where all the kids from uni are going and learning how to get dentists. And that's one place I will not get a freebie at. It's like, no way in the world. But let's have a look. Tasha's asked a question here. She goes, Tony, I have a question.
Please, anyone share, you know, your first time experiences with as a practitioner, because I think we love to hear about them, and everyone sharing helps others. Yeah. Okay. So Tasha's put a question here. Tony, I have a question. What strategies can you use when you've been through a violent experience and affects you mentally? It's a pretty big one, Tash.
It's a big one, Tash. There's a couple of things we've got to consider. How acute is it? Like, how soon did it happen? Has this been going on for a little while? So I'll give you strategies for both, something for acute and something that's, you know, happened a long time ago. You know, anything longer than a year, I class as long time. Look, the first, Tash, it's tough. Okay. So I do feel for you, and having a violent experience is never a pleasant one. The first thing, and this is going to be the hardest thing in the healing process, Tash, is a forgiveness process. And you actually try to forgive them in the sense where, not for what actually happened in the act. In the act, that was it. But there was a build up before it, and there was something that happened after it. And the forgiveness is that I'm pretty sure if this person had a sound bit of mind and it was coming from his heart of hearts or her heart of hearts, they may have not reacted like that. And I've just got to forgive that it was a bad moment in time, and then just try to give forgiveness. Now, Tash, that's one of the hardest things you can ever do. But what we know is with forgiveness doesn't allow you to have anger. And it doesn't, so it goes, it was a week ago, it was the oldest son who choked me, and now he's in jail for 6 weeks. Okay, so yeah, so it's pretty recent. Forgiveness does not allow you to have anger or hatred. Forgiveness takes a different energy on board, and you're trying to deal with it from an emotional. So what he did was not it was not right, and it was horrific. So I really feel for you on that sense. That's quite a scary experience to go through. And you've got to think of it this way, Tash. None of us get born evil, yeah? But, you know, we all get born with a lot of love. That's the one thing that we do have is love. The emotional connection that we crave for as a child is love and connection. And that's innate. That's something in our DNA. Hate is not there. Hate is something that we learn. Violence is something that we learn. And violence and fear, violence comes from a fear-based. You know, the fear will turn into anger and things like that, as they say, and that's what leads you down to the dark side, as they say in Star Wars. So my thing there is forgiveness is big, and then to have a look at it and go into it and go, geez, okay, so this is, you know, the oldest son. Try to empathize. Go, what's going in his life? So what happened all those years to build up till he got to this point here? Because I guaranteed he's not happy with himself. He's not bragging about this. He's not going away, I'm chuffed at this. He doesn't understand what impact it's had on you. So that's the other one, except that he'll never fully understand the impact that it's going to have on you. So in saying that, if you have an expectation that you think he's going to know exactly what you went through, and you went through the fear and the terror of it, he'll never get it because he was never in your shoes. So never ask that from him, because what you're really doing is you're asking for a big apology. And sometimes that apology might not come through. So all you can do is take control of what's going on with Tash at the moment, which is I'm going to practice forgiveness, and I'm going to practice gratitude. And gratitude being that I'm grateful that I'm still alive. I'm grateful that I can sit back and I can actually go on with my life now. And you will have series where it will freak you out. In saying that, Tash, as well, there is a thing where it will freak you out because it's a really strong knee-jerk reaction. Came out of nowhere, oh man, it happened, right? That has to be dealt with. So what I'm going to say there, Tash, is definitely go see a counselor or a psychologist that you feel comfortable with, and make sure you get some of that stuff, because when you get that initial jolt, it will have an impact on your nervous system, which could, you know, it will link up somewhere in your brain. You create a new neural link, and you just got to break that down a little bit. Your reaction is correct. To freak out and to feel scared and feel threatened are absolutely valid. And that's how you would feel because your life's being threatened. But now we've got to bring it down again. So what we've got to do is not amplify the whole, I could have died, it was tragic, it was this, that, the other, which it was. I'm not going to take away from that. But now we have to go down, what really happened? And sometimes that takes time, Tash, to understand what really happened. What was really going on for them? Was it really about me? Was it something just about him? Was I just the person in the wrong place at the wrong time? Was I, you know, all these, and then act as a scientist or a detective to try to, but only in your own time. First, look after your emotional stuff, and then look at dialing it back from a psychological perspective. That's what I'll do without having a proper chat to you, Tash. I hope that helps you out, and I really, a lot of self-love for you, a lot of help from ourselves, Tonia and myself, but also out in the community. Go see a good counselor, go see a good psychologist, speak to friends, see who else has been through it, that kind of stuff. That always helps as well.
Absolutely. And Tash has put here that drugs played a big factor. So, you know, they're you know, that makes it really hard. But there is they've arranged a family violence counsellor for me. So that's great and a step in the right direction, Tash, because
look, and
like
that's
Tony said,
you're
and
right.
You need a lot of ongoing help with that. It's not just would it be, Tony? I'd imagine like it's not just a one session. You're going to be.
Oh, that's subjective. That's you know, I have some clients who come in and get it and go, I've been so angry because I've wanted them to say sorry, and I'm going, well, okay, you got drugs, and then now you've got. It's really interesting. Tash brings it up. Once you've got drugs in the scenario, basically that's like you've got the person, the drug itself, and then you. So now it's a three-way thing. If this person was not impacted by drugs, would they have reacted the same? Right? I've always said this, Tash and Tonia, that, with domestic violence and things like that, and I go, if you took drugs and alcohol out of the equation, would there be as much domestic violence as there is today? Yeah. And that's a really important one. Every time, 9 times out of 10, and I speak to police officers that are first on the scene, and they'll always say this: there's copious amounts of alcohol either off their breath or around the house, or there's signs and symptoms of drugs and everything throughout the house. Now, unfortunately, here in Sydney, our affluent areas that use a lot of cocaine, a lot of alcohol, a lot of this, have the highest rate of domestic violence. That's the correlation between the two, And the thing is, it's never reported because they're affluent and they don't want to be exposed for domestic violence or drug use. So it's only you hear out in the western suburbs, or not even the western suburbs is becoming quite affluent in Sydney as well. But the pockets of Sydney that aren't doing so well, they'll get reported all the time. Oh, it's drug abuse and it's domestic violence. So Tash, this is the hard thing now, is now separating. You're up against the drug. You're not really up against him in that sense. And you've got to ask yourself, if the drugs weren't involved, would this have played out the way it did? And that's one. It's a nice place to look at it from. Do you know what I mean? Because we all know, Tonia, you know yourself. Everybody on this feed knows. You've had one too many drinks, or if you dabble in drugs, you push it too far. Your inhibition process, that thing in your brain, that filter in your brain that says, don't do that, you'll hurt that person or you'll offend that person, that gets switched off. And then what happens is, with drugs and alcohol, which is really, really painful, the truth of it is, it's recognized as a poison within your system. So when you drink alcohol or you take drugs or something, it's recognized as a poison. As it goes into your system, it will set off your adrenal glands as a threat response. So that's why you get the adrenaline rush. That's why, I feel really good, and It doesn't create any more endorphins. You just get more energy, and you confuse energy with endorphins, which is a big mistake, a really shitty one. What you also do is produce cortisol. So what you do is you start to trying to fight the alcohol or the drugs and all this, and that's the angry thing. So if you have a prolonged episode of alcohol or drug abuse, that's a lot of energy, and that's a lot of anger that you're actually producing on a chemical reaction here within your brain. So now you're up against that, Tash. So that's a totally different scenario. And I'm glad you brought that up, Tash, because that can also help in the forgiveness piece a little bit. Like, the dude didn't, if he wasn't on drugs, is he really that much of a bad person? Or is he just one person that's really screwed up on drugs, and I'm up against the drug, I'm not up against the actual individual themselves.
No, beautiful explanation, Tony. And hopefully, Tash, that helps. You've got the support of so many here. Nick's jumped in. Good morning, Nick. Sending love and healing to you and your son, Tash. And there's a few others here. Gay sent love and healing as well. So, it's not a hard one to navigate. And it's certainly one that you're not on your own there, Tash. I think that's an important one to remember, is there's many going through similar. And it's not that takes away any of the seriousness of it, but don't feel like you're alone, because sharing is allowing others to also share their story. So thank you.
Yep. It is. It's really cool. And hopefully, look, just give it time, Tash. You're on the right path. You're asking the right questions, which is the best thing ever. Absolutely. All right, you get back to first times.
First time. So first time with being a practitioner. Gilly, I'd love to hear your version as well, and Nick as well. First time being a practitioner for a client. We'd love to hear the stories. So Rachel's popped up hers here. One of the first readings I did back when it was for a gold coin donation really put me on my path, knowing what I should do. I had so many hits in half an hour reading, but the whole time I was shaking so nervously on the inside. I love that, Rachel. I reckon many could relate to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, you would be shaking. I mean, like, I wonder what it's like for a reading, because it's what are you worried about getting wrong? Because you're worried about what you're getting wrong, right? So as a reader, I'd love to know this, Rachel. She's sitting there. It's a gold coin donation. It's a really, really cool thing. I like that idea. The gold coin donation takes all the pressure off. And then so you're sitting there and you're nervous and you're thinking, geez, I hope I don't get this wrong. What would you get wrong, though? That's the question. What are you hoping they don't find out? Because there's a whole lot. I think it's the client not going and exposing you, going, you fraud. This is your first time doing it. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And we all take a different road to that. Like I was brought up with, you just get out and do it. You don't advertise the fact of how much you've been doing it, because then it kind of puts that onus on your response. Whereas, that was back in our day, whereas probably now people are more open and say, look, I haven't done many. And people are comfortable doing that, which I think is probably a lot easier because it takes the pressure off yourself. And you would feel freer to kind of go, well, you know what, doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas when you're putting on that hat of, I remember my first, and I think I shared that with you guys on the weekend, Tonia, about my first ever platform demonstration of mediumship. Like, it was totally unreal how it came about and how spirit orchestrated it to happen without me even putting my hand up to do it. It was like, a friend messaged the wrong person to say, would you like to come and help on a day retreat for women and do a mediumship demonstration? And it was the wrong person. So it was really funny. But I ended up doing it, and it worked out great. And that was, that was awesome. It was probably the best experience for me because I just was put in on the spot and off you go.
Yeah. That's it. That's all you got to. You got to say yes. And Rachel, I love it too, and I love the experiences that you guys share because it's just saying yes and turning up and hoping for the best. We call it stage time. Just keep on getting up there. Just keep on bombing. You're not going to do well. It's just keep on going. But I like how she goes. It was so funny. Rachel goes, "It was so watching the client mouth drop when I described the bloke to a T who she just had coffee, and that's brilliant. And like you would have spun yourself out, Rachel, too. I guarantee you would have gone like, I've nailed this. It's like, oh my God, how did I do that? It's like I fluked it. Sometimes I nailed it. Absolutely.
And it's a very hard gig doing this because people assume because you're psychic, you already know that you're right. They just figure that you know it. So you don't always hear back from the person, but you'll hear back from their friend who books a reading or family members that come in and go, oh, you were spot on. It's like, oh wow, was I? Because we're basically the bridge that channels the information. So for us, we have to totally surrender and be in that moment of trusting that what's coming through will resonate with that person. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an exact science. You can't go back and do your homework on it.
Yeah, you go, oh well, geez, I got step 3 wrong. Well, I have to go back and do step 3 again because I stuffed up the whole reading. It's not like that. I just want to go to Sean's comment. It's a really good one. Sean, thanks for this. G'day, mate. How are you? Good to see you, buddy. He puts up, just quickly back with Tasha's thing, substance abuse is not an excuse for board decisions. Or absolutely. We're not saying it's an excuse, but what we're saying, it's a main contributor or it's a factor why this person has reacted the way they've done. So what we're saying, Sean, it's a very, very good point because some people go, oh, the excuse was they were an alcoholic or a drug addict. No, what we're saying is if the person wasn't on drugs and alcohol, would they act differently, right? The whole thing is then you've got to ask yourself, Sean, it's a very good question, or it's a very good statement, actually, and I agree with you. Go, then my next thing, if I had to peel back the layers on a human being, I'd be going, what drove you towards substance abuse or drug abuse, whatever that may be? And that's where I'd be peeling that back. And I'm going to guess just through experience that there's a lot of trauma behind that. Normally when you're, you're heavily on drugs or if you're heavily on alcohol, you're trying to suppress some sort of trauma. There's some emotional pain that they're trying to not deal with and trying to suppress all that. And what happens is they have this beautiful facade of everything's good and life's grand and everything like that. They're in control of their lives and all this kind of stuff. So it's never an excuse, Sean. I absolutely agree because the human being is in control. And you follow on with that conversation to say what sober people do. You go, sober people must own the behavior in order to forgive themselves. And that's absolute. A sober person can do that because we have many moments of clarity, whereas somebody on drugs or alcohol very rarely has a moment of clarity to reflect. You know what, Sean? The scariest thing is this, Tonia, as well. They'll forget sometimes the actions that they've actually done because they're so off their chops, right? So they don't have that moment of clarity. So yeah, it's never an excuse. You're absolutely right. but it is a factor, and we have to take that into consideration. I think that's very, very important. Thanks for that, Sean. I really appreciate that call.
Well said, Tony. Gilly's popped here. Her first readings were intuitive through cutting hair then. So it's interesting. Can I just say there's many hairdressers that step into doing readings and things like that. So it's
battle psychology. That's the two that you guys should be doing. You're qualified already.
Absolutely. We don't need a certificate, do we? Oh, yeah, we do.
Nah,
no, just joking.
Rock up in it. Let's go with Gilly. Gilly sounds really cool. So what has she done?
First readings were intuitive through cutting hair. Then when I first ever did a psychic reading, I asked a group if they wanted to test my skills, and 3 separate women I'd never had known said, I will take a reading, and I blew their minds while blowing my own with confirmation back in about 2016. Love it, Gilly. I love it. And look, that is and you know what I think as a reader, you never lose that. Like, I think that's part of the makeup of who you are, is you never ever get tired of the stories of when you blow someone away and they explain to you why. It's just that feeling of wow, because, unless you get that feedback, you're not to know, but it is something that's always so valued in our industry.
It is. You would get a big wow. But can I just say, Gilly, a big, big wow to you for having the biggest kahunas in the world to go in front of a group of people and go, all right, I want to test my skills. Who wants a reading? Like, that is, talk about putting it out there. That is like, you have thrown yourself in the ring and you go, let's go. Give us your best shot. That to me as a practitioner is, I take my hat off to you. That is brilliant. That is so ballsy. I love it. It is, I'd be like, and I could just imagine Gilly go, she'd be confident too about it. She goes, who wants to have a go at this? And everybody would go, shit, she must be good. She's pretty confident about it. And then she's there shaking in her boots going, oh shit, I had to get this right. It's like.
And can I say that you often, that is the experience. Like, when you start off doing readings, you do tend to blow it out of the park quite readily because you have no expectations. And there kind of always is. I'll often say that when I'm running classes or chatting to students and say you'll start off at the peak, because you go in not having any preconceived ideas, and then you'll go down this little bit of a hill because all of a sudden you've banged so many great things out there that you get a little bit flat when you don't necessarily feel you're continually doing that, even though you are to a degree. So the expectation sometimes gets in the way, and then it takes a little bit to build that back up again. So that's a common one that we see that a lot.
Absolutely. Gilly, you've been doing it now for, I'd love to know, since 2016. So what's that? That's almost 7 years doing it. So it's pretty good. I'd love to know how things are going for you now and where your level is now. And I've got to say, Tonia Reeves, you are such a well-experienced clairvoyant or a medium. And what I really love about you, and we spoke about this on Sunday night, at Shelby's favorite restaurant called Karen's. We'll be taking it there back again because she loved that one. She requested, can we go back again? If you haven't been to Karen's in Sydney, go. It's where the waitresses and waiters are quite abusive, but you know that before you walk in, that's the setup. It's like they've got a whole lot of improv actors in there, and they'll throw menus at you and they'll go, what do you want? Tonia didn't order sauce in time. They go, what sauce do you want with your burger? And there's a whole lot of sauce. She goes, you're getting tomato. And Tonia goes, I don't like tomato. Which is quite hilarious. But what I love about you as a medium, where I find you really, really exceptionally skilled, is watching you do a show. And I love that one with William or Billy, and you had a young child that came up in spirit. And you held the energy and you held the crowd for at least a good 2 to 3 minutes. And you went out to the crowd and you go, I'm getting a William, also known as Bill, young kid, kept on going, persevered. And I'm talking about 2 minutes on the clock. So that's a long time to persevere with no feedback from the crowd, right? And you then went, okay, well, maybe it was somebody walking past. That's okay in the audience. And then I'm just going to acknowledge spirit that he was here and blah, blah. And then that perseverance, which was great, which was really good. And not many clairvoyants or mediums would ever have the perseverance that you do. after your show. Tell us what happened after your show. When you finish the show, you get off stage. What happens then?
A lady comes up and she was like, I was a little bit scared to put my hand up, and I didn't know whether it was, whether it was, my brother or not, but his name was William. He came under Bill, and he passed, I think, a little while ago. I think that one was. So anyway, she confirmed everything, and I know like Geordie on here and Rachel will get this, because it is what happens is people get a little bit deer in the headlights when there's a show. And like up there, it would have been, I don't know how many in that group, Tony. There was like
in that audience about 150, maybe 200.
Yeah. So there was a massive amount of people, and you do get that. People just get all like stage fright. And that's why I always, when I intro, I say, I'm not going to make you take your clothes off or come up and on stage or go dancing. Just put your hand up. Let me work it out. But you do. Yeah. When I was in Brisbane, I had a young guy who it was too overwhelming for him, and it was his nephew that passed. So he was a young boy that had passed, and so he put his hand up, and then I could see he was just so emotional, and he kind of shook his head. And I said, don't worry, let's have a chat about this afterwards. I'm going to leave him there, and we will. So he ended up, he came and had a chat, and I organised to do a reading for him because it was really emotional. It was too much. And he said, I was just overwhelmed when everyone turns around and looks at you. So, in a group situation that happens. So you need to be understanding as a medium to say, at times people don't want to put their hand up or, just feel overwhelmed. And for a lot of people in the audience, and you'll see that when they come up and give you feedback, their heart starts to race when they know it's for them.
Yeah, right.
So it's not uncommon for the soul knows that you're connecting to that loved one. So they get a little bit,
it's funny. It was funny too, though. I like my partner all saw you for the first time, and we were up the back there, and we had 3 ladies in front. It's funny how people will volunteer their information and everything like that, and all of us cracking up because there was a lady, and that was her daughter, and that was her mum next to her. And it was a gentleman that passed away, and they start saying, you started giving some information. And the lady's going, yes, like you nailed it. You go, he was quite a shy character. He wasn't too vocal, but he was a cheeky bugger. He was always blah, blah, blah. And she goes, yeah, that's it. And she was getting emotional. So you don't, we were sitting directly behind, and all I could see this lady get really emotional and teary, and she's trying to keep the brave face with the microphone. And then you said, there was something about a car. It's a unique car. It's not this, that. And the daughter goes, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, and the person on the microphone goes, yeah, something like that. I think bullshit. The daughter's going, that's 100%.
That's what I love. That's what I love about families. I really think if there's a show, you need your friends or your families, because they're the ones that call you. They call you on the, maybe. They're like, oh, yes.
Well, the mum next to her, I think it was her brother. I think it was the mum's brother from memory. And she started describing something else about him and this, that, the other. And the mum was there, and she goes, shut up, don't admit to that, shut up. It was like, and the lady started crying and everything. And it was great for all to watch it, because she goes, oh my God, this is the impact that Tonia has with families. Like, it's so cool. It was that connection. So you're very skilled. But let's have a look at other pieces of experience. Rachel's got up here. No one at the market that day knew that it was my first lot of readings for money that day. They don't know, Rachel, unless you put, I know that's a really good one. It's only if you put up a sign and go, this is my first ever day of readings, please be gentlemen. Man, I reckon, Rachel, you're pretty confident. I reckon Rachel would have just carried it. Yeah. Mate, I'm an old hat at this. Let's go. Bang. Line them up. What do you got?
Yeah. And look at Rachel's. People forget their own names and their family names. Remember, there was another one that Orla shared with me, and she goes, "You were saying this name," and the guy puts his hand up after 5 minutes and goes, "Oh, yeah, that's my name, and yeah, that's my sister, I think." So you would think,
that was hilarious.
You would think with a name that would be the concrete evidence, like, "Hello, it's your name," And some people are on it, but like Rach says, some people do. They're like, until you give 10 bits of evidence, I'm like, what? I don't get it.
I love it. Hey, and Sam's on board too. She goes, morning, everyone. I'll let you know when I have my first client. I'm working on setting up my business. Hey, Sam, good luck with this. Plug your business here. Flog it as much as you can. That's what we're here for, Sam, so you can support you.
Absolutely. I want to share Nick's too. We've got a few.
Go for it.
Let's have a look. Nick, it took me a while to start to do readings. The more expos I went to, the more comfortable I had become to get used to people, to pick a card and explain what the message was. I knew I was on the right track when the person replied, I was just reading, and they told me the same thing. They just had a reading that told me the same thing, and no greater reward than to help someone move on with their life. I know I stand and believe in my products as I am who I am today because of them. And I think that's a big thing, Nick, is you're not just creating tools for other people to use and help. You've used them to help yourself. And that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, and you are an awesome person. That really comes through with you, Nick. I've seen you do your readings before, and they are bloody brilliant, mate. I've got to say so. And when you're a true testimony to your own work, then that speaks volumes. People are going to love that kind of stuff. Jen's got a good one. Jen, you thought we went past yours, Jen? No way in the world. Because I like this is a Jen. Jen, thank you for being a brave soul. Thank you.
So we've got my biggest fear, as Tonia knows, is getting it wrong. Jen, that's every single one of us. So don't feel on your own in that case. We all want to be right. It's a human ingrained thing that we want to be right. We want to get acknowledgement that we're right. And you certainly have to lose that when you become a reader, 100%. You've got to let go of any kind of, expecting feedback. Last week I received 7-deck tarot, oracle, and Tonia's beautiful cards. The energy I got when I opened them is wow. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jen. In 5 days, some pre-loved and some gifted. A friend said, "You are so ready." Laugh out loud was my answer. That's a sign, Jen.
All right, you know what, Tonia, you got to pull out the same whip that you used with Hannah over dinner the other night about telling her to pull it out, Tonia. Just whip Jen into place. Go on.
Exactly. Just do it, Jen. Just, honestly, just do it. And the more you trust and surrender to the process, just put yourself out there. Have no expectations. I think we're led to believe if you listen to the media, we're meant to jump into something and we're booked out within a week because it's our soul calling, and it's the biggest load of BS you'll ever hear. It takes time. It takes, continual perseverance in business. And, it's not something you just suddenly snap into and it becomes magically your new role, And
don't do it when you feel like doing it.
But start somewhere. Yeah, start somewhere and start today, because, it might take you 18 months of doing it as a side gig before you step into doing it, more often. And that is fine. And I think, we really need to keep in mind the reason behind doing it. And for me, it's making a difference to people. And, you've got to also own your own shit in going, you know what, if the ego is attached that I feel like there's some kind of, I need to be doing X, Y, and Z, then that will block you from getting the people coming in from, you really just got to keep that in check. And that's a continual thing. It's not something that we just suddenly go, oh, I'm going to surrender and that's going to be just how it is. We have to keep reminding ourselves of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this. Look, Jen, you're going to have the same impact as like exactly when you got those cards from Tonia and you went, oh, the energy I got was wow. And like Tonia would never know that until you said that to you. But you're going to have heaps of that kind of stuff, a whole lot of wow little pockets popping up in your life. And the problem is you won't know. That's the only thing you'll never know. You'll never get that feedback. And you just got to keep on going with it. Jordan,
and I love that. I love Jenny's. Jen's also put she's about to embark on a holistic counselling course. Fabulous. That would be such an asset to readings. Be able to combine the two.
Yeah, Geordie puts up a really good one. Geordie, this is a great comment, and I like this. Yes, being under the umbrella of student, it takes the pressure off 100%. And what that means is that you've got a mentor somewhere. And that's a really important factor, sort of like, and Geordie, this is what you're going through, because if you're a student, that means you've got a mentor or a teacher above you. That means you can go back and get some feedback. You go, did this reading, I just wasn't feeling it. I'm not too sure. I got a few things incorrect and I feel like I stuffed up. And then, you as a mentor or a teacher, Tonia, you'd be going, hold on a second, let's break it down. It does, because I really like that. This speaks volumes to me, Geordie. I think if you take your whole career as a clairvoyant or any therapist at all, is that you're always a student until the day you die. That means you never have to get it right. You just have to persevere to be the best that you can with what you're given at that moment. Yeah. And I think that's a healthier way to look at it. Always think of you. And I know what you're saying, Geordie, you've got guidance as well, but always think that, yeah, what do you reckon about that, Ton? I think that's
absolutely. Yeah. And, sometimes you'll go out and you'll look for that external validation and you'll go and do some training. And then sometimes you'll pull back and you'll connect in with yourself and what feels right for you in that moment as well. So balance that out. There's also, I see a lot that sometimes tend to keep, like training to get that validation, and you don't want to just keep doing it. You don't want to keep doing it over and over and over, hoping.
It's the serial degree person, right? Where they go, I've got this degree, but I need the next one. No, I need the next one. I need to get a master's in something. No, I should get an honours. Do you know what I mean? And it's never enough. And they don't do it. They're a professional student. They do nothing but acquire all this knowledge, and they never are practical with it. Avichka goes, Avichka, here you go. You are all motivating me to just book in and do the word of mouth readings. I keep putting it off. You know what? No, Avichka, I want to disagree. You should just sit at home and not tell anybody, and you should get heaps of business coming in. Avichka. Have fun with it. Have fun with it. That's what you got to go do. Make it fun. Go chat to people. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Gilly's share here is a great one. It's a powerful rush of magical energy, like childlike love. It is. Connecting to spirit is, they have this, I say that it's like an unconditional love. It's like their energy, and the energy of the spirit world is so calming and so different to what we have here. So it is a bliss to be able to connect in with that. And I do remind everyone that I honestly believe everyone can do it. It's not just something, that a certain group of people have. I really do feel that we can. And if we set that intention, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to step in and do readings, but, we can connect to our loved ones in the spirit world and our guides. And why wouldn't you when they're going to help you make life that bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the childlike love. I think that's pretty cool. There's nothing more pure, innocent, and it has no boundaries. It's like, yep, I love that's how it is. It's so cool. Yep, beautiful. There's no limit to it. It's limitless, which is beautiful.
Yes. Karen's popular. You leave us Karens alone, please. Karen, it's a great name, Karen. I think they're just promoting the.
It is just
so. Mel's popped it here. Tuning into customers and picking their meal or drink before they say it. My intuition is really good, but I'm not really using it.
You are. Mel, I don't know about you, Tonia, and everybody else. You go there, you sit in front of a menu, and you're going, oh, geez, what I'm going to have? And then you have somebody like Mel come along and go, oh, you want a chicken parmigiana, don't you? And I'd be going, yeah, absolutely. You've just made me have the best eating experience ever, Mel. That's it. You could be the psychic menu picker. That's what you're
exactly. And Mel, look, you might be there for a reason, but maybe an idea of having a like a market there, for a spiritual market, or an evening with spirits. Look, we've got Geordie, you've got myself, you've got a few of us, around the area. Mel works at a great winery that's probably about, 40 minutes from here.
Yep.
So, yeah, start.
And Mel, do you know what? Is Mel wanting to be a psychic, or is she just?
I'm not sure. Well, Mel's got a multitude of talents. Yeah, she's incredible.
Mel, I'm just going to say, if you're not doing it, lift your game. Stop playing the easy game of picking people's meals or drinks. You're better than that. You can have a huge impact. Go out there and do some stuff. We have faith in you. We think you're good. If you can pick a meal and a drink, I'm pretty impressed with that.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Rachel's got a beautiful one a little bit further up. She goes, yes, take the leap, do it, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's always a great one, Rach. It's, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. I love it. Rachel's sharing her last show. I looked at a lady and said, I have a Stephen here. And the best friend pissed herself laughing. The girl looked confused. Then she clicked. Stephen was her cat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is very, very cool.
Gay had an interesting experience only a couple of weeks ago while doing a new module of the forensic healing, working with another practitioner. She was really triggered and started screaming at me. I've done this and I've done this, you know. I was really proud that I just took a deep breath and said, you're a therapist and know how this works. Something about your mum hasn't been addressed, and that's why it's still coming up. After some tears, she let me continue and complete the session. That night, I received a beautiful message. So that's gold, Gay, and that is standing in your power. And sometimes you really have to do that. You will be tested in this role to really, to really own that gift of what you have, and to really back up what you're sharing with people.
Yeah, that's so, yeah, I'm with you, Tonia. That is just so skilled and so brave and just so knowledgeable. You're just in that place. You held that. They go, hey, hold on a second. I'm not going to buy into your tantrum right now because it's not serving a purpose. But what I am going to buy into, you as a human being, and you sort of looked past that facade of a tantrum. Gay, that a lot of people would say, I'm taking my hat off to you, because I think that's an amazing thing to do, to able to have that stillness about you in that moment of pressure. Congratulations. And I can see why you got that. And that's what the way people present is not what they're really there for. That's the whole thing. It's like when you're saying, Tonia, you had that guy there, and when all this, they go, you actually said his name and the sister's name, and it takes him 5 minutes later to own up and fess up and go, oh yeah, that was me. What a coincidence. I thought you were talking about something else. Because he wasn't ready for it. It took him 5 minutes to be ready for it. And you just held that space, and then he opens up. And then, Gay, what you've done, you've held that space. And then they open up. And it's holding that space under pressure is where it really counts. So good on you. I'm blown away by that one. I'm really proud of you.
And also it's around delivery. I had a couple of people come up to me, and even ones that were working at the MBS, so they were helping run the stage. And one of the ladies came up and she said, Tonia, I love your delivery. She said it really is wonderful to listen to the way that you deliver the messages. And I thought, that's something that you don't think much of. But I do believe, my background in hairdressing and being able to deliver a message in the way I'd want it delivered is really important, especially when you're up on stage and people do feel a little bit vulnerable. I think being responsible about the way that you deliver messages, rather than sometimes you will see, and you don't see it that often, but sometimes people for the show will go to a bit more extremes maybe with their descriptions to make it a really entertaining show. And I don't buy into that. I'm really mindful of the person and how they receive the message.
You're good though, Tonia. You always, I could just imagine. But that's them. That's all about them showing off, going, oh, and this person died like this, and rah rah rah, and it was gory, and it was all this shit. And I'm like, dude, we don't need to know those details. That's really, it's just you showing off right now. Whereas you're really, the thing I love about you on stage, Tonia, is when you chuckle. And you have a laugh, like nothing's been said, and then you've connected with spirit, and you've connected with that person in the stage, and then you just start chucking there. Oh, and by the way, it's like you've got this in-house joke, and you're on spirit now, and this other person knows, but the whole audience gets involved and go, oh, what's this about? Because it's great, but the innocence, and it's a reaction of laughter. It's not like you can't prefabricate or stage this. It's sort of like, because it takes you by surprise, and you can see you get surprised. You go, oh, that's funny. It's pretty cool. You can't fake that kind of stuff. Gilly's got a nice one, and this is an important one too, Tonia. I think for a lot of people out there, especially in the spiritual realm and also in the counselling or science realm. We'll go science and spiritual, right? Combining those two. Gilly goes, I love learning through you two together, because you both confirm the balance of spirit and reality in my brain. And I think that's important because, Tonia, you and I have had this chat where some people go off on the spiritual realm and they just only live in the spiritual realm, right? They're on that end of the spectrum where they forget that they've got to pay taxes or eat food or go get a job or da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And then there's the scientific realm, where if you can't prove it with facts, it doesn't exist. And that's the other polar end of where it is. And what Gilly says really, so just blend the two together, however that may be. And that's what we try to do. So that's a nice little pick up there, Gilly. Thanks for that. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I like Rachel's share here. I'll be forever grateful to Louise Humphries for basically telling me to come and do readings at a healer's market many years ago. We met at a spiritual iridology course, which I've never used. That course, though, was the catalyst to meet Louise and push me forward. And how often is that? You know, you go and do something, you might not put in place what you've learnt there, you know, but you've met somebody or connected, and it's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen's asking, when are you over here, Tonia? Where's Jen? Jen's
Tassie. Wow. I really want to get to Tassie, Jen.
Yeah, put it out there, Jen. Make it happen.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Tash, really quick, if Tash is still listening, she goes, you know, thank you so much for your support this morning. I'm heading off, go get ready down the street, heading off to my man's place for a few days in the afternoon. Tasha, I'm glad it helped you out. The support was there. And everybody else on board today, even if Tash isn't, I was reading the comments in between for the support that you were giving Tash, and I thought that was just mind-blowing. And like, I wanted to read them all out. And I just think it's such a great community that we've got here. I just love how everybody chips in. You know, the one thing I did forget, guys, if anybody does talk to Tash, is White Ribbon. Go to their website. They've got a lot of stuff about domestic violence and all that, and a lot of good counsellors. So that's just another thing that just popped into my head after. And then, so if you guys remember, but super love this community. Susie, what has she got?
Susie put, I can tell the difference between someone who comes to have a reading and the ones that come to prove I'm a fraud. And this is an interesting one. It is an open experience. The people who are open and beautiful to read for, information flows, and I flounder with the ones closed. I explain to clients when they come to me, we are going to explore together your deepest knowing.
Right.
Look, I'd be like, it is interesting, Susie. I probably call the ones that that are, I'd say, more skeptic. I don't necessarily think they're trying to make you a fraud. And I think sometimes we need to just be aware of the language, because you don't want to feel, you know, like if you pick up on that energy, and I think we've all as readers had someone that's come along that's, you know, been the reluctant person. I actually had a guy in the audience one of the days in Sydney, and his mother came through, and it took his wife to put her hand up, and he was there like, oh my God. And I could see, and I laughed on stage. I said, oh, you know, you really came here for this, didn't you? And we had a bit of a laugh, and he was like rolling his eyes, but his mum came through with all the evidence, and, you know, and in the end he was quite emotional, you know, but he was there for a reason. And I think sometimes the skeptics, they're meant to be coming to us to just be able to open that door. And it doesn't mean that you're going to convert them, but it just means that they're there to see the other version of what they solidly believe. So, you know, but I also feel, Susie, sometimes we need to look at, and I'm not saying specifically you here, but if we have a lot of people coming with a bit of either the walls are up or they're a little bit negative, whatever, we need to look at where within ourselves are we not fully believing in what we do, or, you know, because sometimes spirit will attract people to give us that jolt to say, hey, come on, we need you to really go a bit deeper in your belief that what you are doing is, you know, is your sole purpose, but also own it deep down. And sometimes that's subconscious stuff that we need to work on a little bit. So I'll often, if I have somebody that's a bit reluctant or a little bit like that, a little bit like, no, you know, not relating, I just look at that and go, where in me do I need to reach in and go, I'm owning this? And you know what? I'm not going to be affected by that person. And I know Susie's been doing it for a while, so she probably isn't affected. But I just wanted to share that for those that might be reading this that are starting out more so.
It's a good point, Tonia. It's a really good point. And Susie, thanks for bringing that point up, because that's a really, really good one. And it just opens up a whole can of worms. I could ask you a million questions, Susie. But it's a good thing to highlight, you know, especially if you're up and coming and just starting off in the game. Yeah, I think it's a really good one. You know, it sometimes, you know, I'll even have it, back in the early days, you'd have it where in a counselling session, Susie, you're like this, and people go, you tell me what's wrong with me. I'm not going to tell you anything. And I'm thinking, you lack communication skills. Like, fuck, I don't know what's going on in your life. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to put you in a box all of a sudden and say, oh, you're this personality type or you're that personality type. It's interesting, Susie. Yeah, I think it happens in the early days. And then after a while, once you have that confidence about you, there's that energy that people will feel, and they will just come in disarmed and go, here's my heart on a plate. Help me out. But it happens. You will get tested by the universe, by people, by everybody, and I love it. So it's really good.
Vivica, I forgot that you were in Sydney. So you were there on Melbourne on Thursday. Yes, I wasn't there Thursday. We were catching the plane, I think Friday. Yeah. There was a medium on stage, and he put me off. Felt very ego and almost forced. It was really interesting. Yeah, and it's good. I think you got to tune into that, if it doesn't feel genuine. And I think right now, and I've shared this a lot in readings over the last, couple of months, that because I feel like the positive with COVID and being held back and pulled back and, almost having to spend more time with ourselves, is we've come out a lot more sensitive. So it's like we're now able to see things clearer. And I do feel that energetically. We've connected to our senses even stronger than ever by going within a little bit. And so I feel many now, the bonus of it is that we've come out of this really connecting and knowing what feels right for us even stronger than ever. And I think that's powerful.
Absolutely. And Vichka, I reckon on this one too here, it's just like when you've got, you can feel that energy of ego and it's almost forced. I think it would be somebody trying to establish themselves. So if you think about the energy that goes into it, a little bit egotistical, which is look at me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Forced, I'm right. So that's forced. If you got to tell somebody that you're right all the time. Yeah. So that's nervous energy. And the nervous energy is like, I'm trying to establish myself. I hope I'm accepted. And it's an interesting one to look at. I mean, I'm pretty sure if this person could watch a video on themselves and perceive it and they go, oh, geez, what was I thinking? Oh, why didn't this Vichka lady come to me earlier? and it's just nervous energy. Sometimes it can be that. I like to think.
She said he did argue.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, defensive.
Once again, I'm right.
Yeah.
No. They like yellow t-shirts. They go, but they didn't own a yellow t-shirt. They go, he had yellow t-shirts. I'm telling you now, he had yellow t-shirts. He hated yellow. He just didn't like the color yellow. There was a yellow t-shirt there somewhere. I'm telling you now. And then finally, the client will crack and go, sure, he had a yellow t-shirt. It's the only color he wore. That's exactly what happened.
And look, it's not an easy gig, and we've often spoken about this before. When you're up on stage, you really, it's not something that everyone really chooses to want to, say put their hand up for. So I do, say kudos to those that do, because it is a really big thing to be able to, own your stuff enough to get up on stage and be in front of a big audience. So yeah, and I still learn stuff. I still learn things as I go with it, and with different shows and energies. It's cool. Like, it's pretty, but it's certainly not the easiest role. Easy to sit there and do one-on-one readings.
yeah, exactly. I've got to say, I've just been, Rachel, you cracked me up. Rachel at 10:26 this morning. She goes, I had a skeptic book in under a different name. I love this one. Right? You cracked me up. You're hilarious. I had a skeptic book in under a different name. She sat down and used her, and I used her real name, which is gold. I want to know how you did this. You swore and laughed and chatted to her mum who passed, which is a beautiful thing. Her mum used to book in with mediums and do the same thing. It was hilarious. That's a ballsy move, Rachel. That's the only terminology I have right now to use in your courageous. It should have been courageous move. How do you pick something and go, that's not your name. Your name's actually this. Like, have you ever had that time?
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is, what you'll start to do, and Rachel will know this too, that's probably how it happened. You're not aware of what name you're using. So they'll sit there and then you just start sharing, and it's like, and then they're like, called out.
Yeah. But it would be, as a psychic, as a medium, it would be a bit of a buzz to get that right. That's got to be, if you ever and Rachel, that's called a bragging right. In your game, that's a bragging right because that's pretty cool. That's a good one. That is. Would you agree with that, Ton?
100%. Love it. No, it's pretty cool.
Geordie goes in there. I love reading. I love reading. Being a healthy skeptic, and some of the stuff that comes out of my mouth blows me away. Love what we do. Yeah, look, and I like the surprise factor. You're nodding your head there, Tonia, going, "Yep, exactly. Yep. That's right. Yep."
Exactly. It really is. We can't make that shit up, as Geordie would say, you know. And you know that's the healthy part of it. But I think, you know, being that balance of a skeptic and, you know, being a realist yourself definitely helps in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And I can just imagine Geordie would be a really cool person to have a reading with, to be quite honest. She just says it as it is, but has a whole lot of empathy, emotions as well. So she's got so good with the facts, but then there's this heart of gold that lays behind it, and it's getting that combo. I really like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. Avichka goes, now I'm trying to be an empath. I get what's going on in your head and your heart right now about this other dude, and you're like, man, but he did argue a lot, you know. But okay, I'll step back for a second, and maybe he was nervous. I'm not too sure. I love that.
I think a good wrap up for today's show is Jack Murphy Murdoch. Hey, Jack. I believe that we have gifted people in our world to lift people up when nothing else works. And when coming from the heart, like you have all commented on, there's no wrong. I love that. I think that's a great wrap up of, you know.
I love it. Is it? And Tonia, you've been absolute champion. So Tonia's been sick as. She's been, not sick as, I shouldn't say sick as, but not feeling the best. And she came on this morning. I was like, oh, Tonia, you all right? And then lovely Honor picks it out quite early, where she goes, oh, you look as white as a ghost, Tonia. What's wrong with you?
And because I'm saying I'm going to go upstairs today because I felt like bringing in the light, and it makes me look even whiter. I'm like, great.
So, guys, I want to say, Tonia, I hope you feel better soon. TNT community, thank you so much. You guys are absolutely awesome. The love that you guys give to one another and everything is just great. And the laughs that we have. So thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space and have an awesome Thursday morning. And I should be here next week, I reckon. Tom, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Why
to
not?
It's
we haven't been told otherwise.
I know. All right, see everybody. Be good.
Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we will see everyone same time, same place next week. Hey, bye for now.